Good morning, students. Today we are going to start the part 2 of this story, A Gift of Chapels. As you all know, the reading and explanation was done in our previous video. Today, before going to start the second part of this story, I would like to revise the chapter again, which we have learned yesterday. In the part 1, the story is Mridu goes to Rukumani's house. Mridu is a young girl living with her grandmother Tapi and grandfather Tata in Chennai. Mridu goes along with Tapi to her aunt Ruku one afternoon. There she meets her cousins Lali, Ravi, and Meena. Everyone at Ruku's money house was glad to see Mridu. There was a thick bitterberry bush in their backyard. Ravi took her. Beside that, there was a small kitten inside a torn football. The small creature was busy drinking milk that was kept inside a half shell of coconut. Meena informed Mridu that they have found the kitten outside their house in the morning of that day. But they must keep it as a secret, otherwise, the grandmother will leave their house immediately. Ravi was upset that they were being taught to be kind towards animals, but when he was trying to do so, elders were screaming at them, calling the kitten a dirty creature. His grandmother was suspicious while he was taking out milk for the kitten from kitchen. He had to drink more than half of the milk to make her believe that it was for him. He also told Mridu that they have named the kitten as Mahendran. Mridu loved the name because it sounded real, unlike those cute ones you keep for the kittens. Ravi further added that its complete name was Mahendra Varma Pallava Punnai and MP Punnai in short. He informed her he could make it from its fur that it was fine breed cat, a close relative of lion family, like the one that Pallava kings used in their emblem. To this Mridu giggled, which instigated Ravi to prove his knowledge about the history further. On his school trip to Mahabalipuram, he had seen a statue of a lion and his family believes that it was the ancestor of that kitten. He proudly announced that his small kitten is the descendant of Mahabalipuram Rishi cat. He reminded Mridu of cats being worshipped in ancient Egypt. He believed it to be a descendant of cat goddess Bastet. Ravi was busy in making all proud announcement about his kitten when a weird sound screech came from the window. Mridu was shocked while Mahendran was frightened. Mahendran jumped with fear on a tray or red chilies kept under the sun for drying. With the screeching sound continuing on the background, Mridu inquired that it was. Ravi informed her that it was a Lali's learning to play the violin. Mridu peeped from the window and she found Lali was holding the violin in an awkward position, sitting a bit away from her music teacher who had his back towards the window. After the summary of part 1, now today we are going to start the part 2 of this story. Now I am going to read the chapter. Mridu crept up to the window. Lali was sitting a little distant away, awkwardly holding her violin and bowstring, her elbow jutting out, and her eyes glazed with concentration. In front of her, with most of his back to the window was the bony figure of the music master. He had a mostly bald head with a fringe of oil black hair falling around his ears and an old fashioned tuft. A gold chain gleamed around his leathery neck, and a diamond ring glittered on his hand as it glided up and down the stem of the violin. A large foot stuck out from beneath his golden bordered vesty edge, and he was beating time on the floor with the scrawny big toe. Now here the glided means moved along smoothly, and Vesti, a dhoti in Tamil, stumbled, followed hathingly. After the summary of first part of this story, The Gift of Chapels, now we are going to start reading of part 2. Mridu crept up to the window. Lali was sitting little distant away, awkwardly holding her violin and bowstring, her elbow jutting out and her eyes glazed with concentration. In front of her, with most of his back to the window, was the bony figure of the music master. He had a mostly bald head and the fringe of the oil black hair falling around his ears and an old fashioned tuft. A gold chain gleamed around the leathery neck, and a diamond ring glittered on his hand as it glided up and down the stem of the violin. A large foot stuck out from the beneath his gold bordered vesty edge, and he was beating time on the floor with the scrawny big toe. Now here you can see the Lali was sitting in the distance, and at the end of the first part we have seen the Lali was playing very awkwardly violin. Now all the cousins slowly moved towards Lali's house, because in the earlier part we had seen an elaborate description how Lali was playing her violin, which had even frightened the little cat. To further inquire about Lali's lesson of the violin. Frightened not to enter the house, they tried the windows. Mridu slowly peeped inside the window of the room where Lali was taking her violin lesson. She was in the far side of the room and was holding the musical instrument as a rookie would do. But her effort and concentration were intense. Her music teacher, was sitting in front of her with his back towards the window. Master Ji was almost bald headed, with some hair hanging on the back of his neck in form of an old fashioned tuft. Though he was an old man, yet his love for traditional ornaments was clearly visible by the gold chain around his neck and the diamond ring on one of his hands. As he was also sitting on the floor, his large foot could be seen under his traditional dhoti, beating on the floor to keep up with the musical beat. His big and large toe was very prominent in the foot. Now, here the word glided. Glided means moved along smoothly. And Vesti means dhoti in Tamil. Stumbled, Stumbled means followed haltingly. Now let's move to the next paragraph. He played a few notes. Lali stumbled behind him on her violin, which looked quite helpless and unhappy in her hands. What a difference! The music master's notes seemed to float up and settle perfectly into the invisible tracks of melody. It was like the wheels of a train fitting smoothly into the rails and whizzing along. As Ravi said, Mridu started, stared at that huge, bringed hand moving effortlessly up the violin stems, making lovely music. Squeak! There was a lally derailing again. Amma! Came a wail from the gate. Amma, oh, now you have brinched means the music master is wearing a ring. The teacher was playing smoothly and Lali was trying to trying very hard to keep up with him and with very little success. The master tune from the violin was easily and smoothly flowing out, which seemed like a wheel of train smoothly whizzing past. Whereas the Lali violin was irritating ows sounds which can hardly be described as tones of music. Soon there was a call from their gate. Someone was at their gate and calling out to the answer other house in a begging tone. Ravi sent that beggar away, cried his mother from the back veranda where she was chatting with Tapi. He was been coming here every day for the past week, and it's time he found another house to beg from, Pati explained to Tapi. Soon there was a call from their gate. Someone was of their gate and calling out to the owner that house in a begging tone. This appealing call was soon replied by Ravi's mother Pati, who called out him and asked him to send away the beggar who was calling out to them at the gate. Pati was telling to Tapi inside the house and was annoyed and wished that it was time that the beggar went away some other place to look of alarms because here every day I am fed up with this beggar. Now next stanza. Mridu and Meena followed Ravi out. The beggar was already in the garden, making himself quite at home. He had spread his upper cloth under the neem tree and was leaning against its trunk, apparently prepared to take a little snooze while he waited for the arms to appear. Go away, said Ravi sternly. My party says it's time you found another house to beg from. Snooze means short sleep. Ravi, along with the children, went out to meet the beggar, was now well seated on his large piece of cloth spread out beneath a large shady tree in the garden. He was assured of getting a handsome alm from the house and was waiting for it to be delivered to him when out come Ravi and asked him to leave and find some other place to get the alms. Ravi was strictly following his mother's order of chasing off the beggar from their house. Now, the next paragraph. The beggar opened his eyes very wide and gazed at each of the children one by one. The ladies of this house, he said at last in a voice choked with feeling, are very kind souls. I have kept my body souls together on their generosity for a whole week. I cannot believe that they would turn me away. He raised his voice, Amma, Amma, oh, sad his weight might be, but certainly wasn't feeble. It began in a deep, strong rumble somewhere in his withered belly and came blooming out of his mouth with its few remaining teeth stained brown and beetle chewing. The beggar expression. The beggar, astonished at this reaction from the house owners, gazed at the children and expressed that for a week he had been coming to this house and the owner had never turned him away without giving him a handsome alms. I am surprised why they are turning me away today. He cried out loud to Ravi's mother with a deep, begging, loud sound, not to turn him away without giving him anything. But Ravi's mother was all fed up with this beggar who had been daily, coming to her daily for the last week. Ravi, tell him there is nothing left in the kitchen called Rukumani, and he is not to come again. Tell him that. She sounded fed up. Ravi didn't have to repeat it all to the beggar. What his mother said had been easy for them all to hear. There under the neem tree, the beggar sat up and sighed. I'll go, he said wearily. Only let me have a rest here under this tree. The sun is so hot, and tar has melted on the load. My feet are already blistered. He stretched out his feet to show large, pink peeling blisters on the soles of his bare feet. I suppose he doesn't have the money to buy chappals, Mridu whispered to Meena. Ravi, have you got an old pair in the house somewhere? I don't know, said Ravi. Mine are too small to fit his feet, or I'd have given them to him, and his feet were larger than Mridu's and Meena's. The beggar was shaking out his upper cloth and tightening his dhoti. He raised his eyes and looked fearfully at the road, gleaming in the afternoon heat. Now, here we are going to start the explanation. Ravi tell him there's nothing left in the kitchen. Now Ravi's mother was fed up with this beggar who had been coming to her daily for the last week. She called out Ravi and ordered him yet again, asked him to leave and never come back again. The mother's sound was loud and clear, and the message got to the beggar. There was no need for Ravi to repeat what his mother had just said. The beggar was now certain that he would not get anything from the house. He sat up and sighed in disappointment. The beggar was not certain that he would not get anything here, so he requested that it is so hot of this time of the day. The coal tar on the road has nearly melted. Having no slippers, it would be very painful for me to walk with all the blisters in my feet. He stretched out his feet to show them. Now, here you can see the meaning of blisters, boils or bubbles on the skin from burns or rubbing. And here some few meaning are there: kept my body and soul together, managed to stay alive. Fed up means tired or unhappy. Now let's move to the next paragraph. Now here we have seen that beggar was stretch out his feet to show large pink peeling blister on the soles of his bare feet. Now the here Mridu was standing over there, and here you can see the scene. Now here you can see we see the following lines: how tender hearted children are. As soon they saw the beggar's feet, they started planning to help the poor man. They discussed that this beggar does not have and money to buy slippers. And the terrible heat on the road will add to the misery of his feet. We could got an old pair of slippers lying somewhere in the house. Ravi, Mridu, and Meena were ready to give away their own if they would fit the beggar's feet. But it was not the case, as their slippers were very small compared to that beggar. The beggar was shaking out his upper cloth and tightening his dhoti. He raised his eyes and looked fearfully at the road gleaming in the afternoon heat. He needs something on his feet, Mina said, her big eyes filling. It's not fair. Shh, said Ravi. I am thinking about it, blubbering. It's not fair. It's not fair. Isn't going to help. In 2 minutes, he will be frying his feet on that road. What he needs is a pair of chappals. So, where do we get them? Come, let's search the house. He pushed Mridu and Meena into the house. Now here you can see they are they are thinking about it because the beggar was in pathetic condition. His feet was blistered, and Ravi and Meena and Madhu were ever ready to give away their own if they would fit the beggar's feet. But it was not the case, as their slippers were very small compared to the beggars. While they were discussing all their prospects of helping the beggar, he was preparing to embark upon a. Now, here we can see while they were discussing all their prospects of helping the beggar, he was preparing to embark upon a tough walk to somewhere he would get arms. He prepared himself and looked ahead at the fiery road with fearful eyes. Now, here we are going to start the new paragraph. Just as she stepped into the veranda, Mridu's eyes fell on the odd looking chapel she had noticed when she arrived. Ravi, she whispered to him, whose are those? Now, the children were still scheming how to help the old beggar. He would surely try fry his feet in the scorching heat. They discussed, we have to help him and get a pair of slippers for him. Come, let us search for a pair of in the house. The children asserted and moved inside the house. No sooner They stepped inside the veranda that they noticed a pair of slippers lying at the doorstep. It were the same pair that Mridu has seen when she was entered the house. She again inquired of Ravi whose slippers were these lying at the doorstep. Ravi turned the glanced at the shabby looking but sturdy old slipper. He beamed and nodded. They are just the right size, he said, picking them up. Mridu and Meena followed him nervously back into the garden. Soon the eyes of the children lighted up, seeing the success of their mission in finding the slippers. These are just the right size for the beggar, Ravi said, and picking up the slippers, all they were, went out of the house where the beggar was into the garden. Now let's move to the next paragraph. Here, said Ravi to the beggar, dropping the slippers in front of the old man. Wear this and don't come back. The beggar stared at the slippers, hurriedly flung his towel over his shoulder, pushed his feet into them, and left, muttering a blessing to the children. In a minute, he had vanished around the corner of street. They gave the slippers to the beggar and put them on the leave the house and never come back again. They directed the beggar, much to his relief, the beggar looked at the slippers and then at the children, put on the slippers and a towel over his head and protect his face from the sun, moved away from the house, quietly speaking words of blessings for the children. In a few minutes he was out of sight and gone. Now let's move to the next paragraph. The music master came out of the house and took an unappreciative look at the three of them sitting quietly under a tree, playing marbles. Then he searched for the chappals in the veranda, where he had put them. Lali, he called after a few moments. She hurried up to him. Have you seen my chappals, my dear? I remember having kept them here. Now, unappreciative means disapproving. Now, here we can see after a short while, the music master, finishing his daily music class with Lali, came out of the house into the veranda and moved towards the place where he had removed his slippers before going inside the house. Finding it not where, he inquired of Lali if she had seen his slippers. Now, Ravi and Mridu and Meena silently watched Lali and the music master search every corner of the veranda. He scurried, looking over the railing and crouching near the flower pots to look between them. Brand new they were. I went all the way to Mount Road to buy them. He went on saying, they cost a whole month's fees, do you know? Soon Lali went into the tell her mother. Rukumani appeared, looking harassed with Pati following her. Now, the Ravi, Mridu, and Meena silently watched Lali's and the music master search every corner of the veranda. Now, this paragraph I am going to explain. The music master and Lali kept moving about around the veranda and the garden area in order to find the sleepers, but in vain. The master, showing his temper, kept repeating how he has gone all the way to Mount Road to buy those slippers and how expensive they were. Soon Lali mother, along with Pati, was out into the veranda and assisted in the search of the slippers. Where could they be? It's really quite upsetting to think someone might have stolen them. So many vendors come to the door, worried Pati. Now the Pati was worried about the slippers. Soon Lali mother along with Pati was out in the veranda and assisted in the search of the slippers. She was expressed her fear that it might have been stolen because many vendors came to the veranda of their house in order to sell their items. Rukumani caught sight of Ravi, Mridu, and Meena sitting under a tree. Have you children? She began, and then, seeing they were curiously quiet, went on more slowly, seen animal lurking around the veranda. Lurking means waiting quietly without attracting attention. Seen anyone lurking around the veranda. A sharp V shaped line had formed between her eyebrows. Another straight, tighter one appeared in place of a usually soft, pleasant mouth. Rukumani was angry, thought Mridu with a shiver. She wouldn't be so upset if she knew about the poor beggar with sore on his feet. She tried to tell herself. Now, the explanation of this paragraph. Ravi, Mridu, and Meena were seeing all these activities from under the tree where they were seated under the shade. Seeing them seated there, Rukumani called out to them and inquired if they had seen anyone take away the slippers from the veranda. Now, here, her voice was harsh and with anger, contrary to the mother's soft voice and behavior, and the children were quick to realize the tone of anger in the mother's voice. The children thought that if we told her that we had given away the slippers to the beggar whose feet were all sore with blister, their mother would understand everything, because that is what she had been teaching them all the time: help the poor and needy. So now I am going to conclude this video. Till this paragraph, we have explained and we have understood the story. After that, we will continue in the next video the explanation of the remaining part of the story. So learn the difficult words and the word meanings and read this chapter again and again. So take care and have a good day. Bye bye.